By the late 1950s, America was living through the golden age of travel. The new interstate highways stretched endlessly across the land. Personal cars filled every driveway, and bus companies competed to create the most luxurious journeys ever seen. Amid this excitement, a small company from Ohio called Flxible stood out, known not just for building buses, but for crafting moving works of art. In 1957, Flxible unveiled the Starliner, a spaceship on wheels, a masterpiece of jet-age styling and futuristic vision. Yet behind its shimmering chrome and pure American beauty hid a shocking truth, a story of ambition, brilliance, and heartbreak. A symbol born in glory, only to be betrayed by its own time. Flxible began its journey in 1913 in Loudonville, Ohio, producing motorcycle sidecars. The company's name came from its defining trait, flexibility in design and purpose. But after World War II, as America's demand for long-distance travel exploded, Flxible shifted toward building intercity buses, a move that transformed it from a small workshop into a symbol of American transportation. Throughout the 1940s and 1950s, Flxible's Clippers and Visicoach models earned a stellar reputation. They were strong, elegant, and comfortable, beloved by hundreds of independent transport companies across the country. Operators trusted Flxible not only for reliability, but also for the craftsmanship that mass production could never match. And in their Ohio workshop, that dream took shape. A machine called the Starliner, destined to carry Flxible to heights they had never reached before. From the very first glance, the Flxible Starliner commanded attention. Its sleek, flowing body shimmered under the sun, with perfectly curved lines and a silver metallic finish that seemed alive in motion. The rounded front, wrapped in panoramic glass, offered a near 180-degree view, more like the cockpit of a jet than the face of a bus. This was the era when America worshipped the future. Everything, from refrigerators to automobiles, was designed with the optimism of the jet age, and Flxible wanted to bring that spirit to the open highway. They weren't just building a bus, they were crafting a symbol of motion itself. Chrome trim streaked along the body like vapor trails in the sky. The stacked twin headlights and low, narrow grille gave the front a streamlined, aerodynamic look. The rounded rear tapered gently, with delicate fins and teardrop tail lights completing the silhouette. Even the italicized Starliner script along the side carried meaning. It suggested motion, energy, and aspiration. Every curve and contour expressed the forward thrust of American design in the 1950s. Compared to its rival, the GM Scenic Cruiser, the Starliner was smaller, lighter, and more graceful, less of an industrial machine, more of an aviation sculpture on wheels. The Scenic Cruiser was built for function. The Starliner was built to stir the soul. And once you stepped inside the Starliner, you truly felt as though you had entered another world. The polished aluminum doors opened to reveal a cabin filled with natural light from the sweeping panoramic glass running along both sides. Inside, passengers felt as if they were floating through the sky rather than traveling down America's highways. The seats were tall-backed, upholstered in thick patterned fabric and framed with chrome armrests, a level of refinement rarely seen on a bus in the 1950s. Rows were spaced generously, and the gently rising floor gave every passenger an unobstructed view of the passing scenery. The ceiling was a masterpiece of its own, lined with polished aluminum, dotted with small reading lights, slim air vents, and built-in speakers. Overhead luggage racks flowed seamlessly along the aisle, keeping the cabin neat, elegant, and astonishingly modern for its time. Flxible proudly called the Starliner luxury in motion. Every inch of the cabin radiated respect for the traveler. Riding aboard wasn't just a trip from one place to another. It was an experience, a moment suspended in America's mid-century dream of light, comfort, and style. But behind the Starliner's mesmerizing beauty lay an engineering structure into which Flxible poured all of its passion. While General Motors dominated the market with its massive double-deck scenic cruisers, Flxible chose a different path: lighter, smoother, and more sophisticated. Power came from Detroit diesel, 671, 8V71, or Cummins NH engines mounted midship or at the rear, depending on configuration. These 6- and 8-cylinder diesels produced between 190 and 300 horsepower, effortlessly propelling the 35-foot coach down the newly built interstate highways. The rear-mounted layout kept the cabin quieter and smoother, an advantage few competitors could match. Flxible also employed a semi-monocoque chassis, a revolutionary concept for American buses at the time. The body's lightweight aluminum alloy was both strong and resilient, reducing overall weight and improving fuel efficiency. The air suspension system soaked up every bump, giving passengers that rare, floating sensation, a level of comfort usually reserved for Europe's luxury touring coaches. Cooling and driveline systems were completely reimagined. Hidden ducts carried heat through the floor, while carefully placed radiators ensured steady airflow during long cross-country runs. Every element showed Flxible's obsession with precision and performance, a smaller company daring to compete head-to-head with GM's might. After the Starliner was completed and unveiled, Flxible believed they had created a turning point for the American bus industry. Within just a few weeks of the first units hitting the highways, the American press lit up. Bus Transportation magazine declared it the most beautiful coach ever built in the United States, while popular mechanics described it as a perfect embodiment of the jet age, where technology and art became one. Photographs of the gleaming Starliner flooded magazines nationwide. The public was enchanted. At bus terminals, people stopped to stare. Children pointed in excitement, while adults marveled, "It looks like a spaceship running on diesel." For the first few years, the Starliner stood as a proud symbol of American innovation. Charter companies flaunted it in brochures and posters, eager to show they owned the bus of the future. Passengers felt like they were traveling through time, an experience no other coach could offer. But after the initial wave of excitement, a quieter tone emerged. Some drivers admitted the Starliner was a dream to drive, but one that demanded care and caution. Operators began realizing that such beauty required delicate attention and a bigger budget than most had anticipated. As enthusiasm settled, a practical question began to surface. Can something this beautiful truly make financial sense? For Flxible, the Starliner represented perfection. But in the marketplace, perfection became a burden. Each coach was built almost entirely by hand, taking weeks to assemble. Every curved glass panel, every chrome strip was custom-fitted, which drove its price 10 to 15% higher than GM's scenic cruiser, enough to make smaller operators think twice. At first, tour and charter companies were captivated by its jet-age styling. They believed the Starliner would be their golden goose, but reality hit hard. The curved glass was fragile and costly, parts were expensive, and the aluminum body required highly skilled labor for even minor repairs. Routine maintenance alone cost nearly twice as much as a standard GM bus. Meanwhile, General Motors had scale on its side. mass production, nationwide service, and low-cost parts. Scenic cruisers dominated the highways with efficiency and affordability. Flxible tried to stay afloat by cutting profits, but every Starliner sold meant another loss. Each one that left the factory was a masterpiece, but also a gamble. Operators who once praised its beauty slowly walked away, and new orders vanished. By the early 1960s, America was changing faster than ever. Fuel prices were rising, new safety and emissions regulations appeared, and long-distance travel began favoring buses that were cheaper, simpler, and easier to maintain. In that new reality, the Flxible Starliner, once a symbol of elegance and optimism, became an outsider. Flxible tried to adapt. They trimmed costs, simplified designs, and sought new partnerships with smaller operators. But in doing so, they lost what made the Starliner special. The successors dropped the jet-age flair, replaced the panoramic glass with flat panels, and traded art for practicality. The bus of the future had quietly become just another vehicle. The deeper problem was that the era itself had moved on. The rise of affordable air travel changed everything. Americans who once dreamed of cross-country highway adventures now preferred the speed of the skies. The golden age of bus travel was fading, and with it, the dream that gave the Starliner life. By 1962, Flxible had no choice but to end production. Only a few hundred Starliners were ever built, and most were soon replaced by cheaper, more efficient models. The cruel irony is that the Starliner wasn't defeated by failure. It was defeated by progress. The world it was built for simply stopped existing. Though production ended in 1962, the Flxible Starliner never truly disappeared. It simply fell asleep in America's collective memory. And like all legends, time eventually revealed how precious it really was. In the world of buses, the Starliner became the bridge between art and industry. It proved that transportation could transcend its purpose and become a cultural icon. With its polished aluminum skin, sweeping curves, and panoramic glass filled with light, the Starliner offered an emotional experience that no other coach has ever matched. Designers from General Motors to Ford later admitted they were inspired by Flxible's vision. The jet-age philosophy, that motion itself is beauty, spread beyond buses, influencing architecture, aviation, and even household design throughout the 1960s. The Starliner wasn't just a product, it was a statement of belief that the future could be more beautiful than the present. When the vintage restoration movement took off in the 1980s, enthusiasts began searching for surviving Starliners. What they found wasn't just a machine, but a moving monument to post-war American optimism, a rolling sculpture where engineering met imagination. Today, fewer than 50 Starliners are known to exist, and only a handful have been fully restored. Some reside in museums across Ohio and California, while others make appearances at events like BusFest and Route 66 Rendezvous. Pristine examples can fetch over $300,000, yet their real worth isn't in dollars. Most owners see their Starliners not as investments, but as living memories. They drive them to feel the deep diesel rumble, to watch sunlight bend through curved glass, and to relive the spirit of an America that once believed in elegance on every road. Even after more than half a century, the Flxible Starliner stands as proof that true beauty never fades. It didn't just define an era, it transcended it, reminding us that creations born from passion always find a way to shine again. If you've ever ridden a long-distance coach, heard the deep hum of a diesel engine at night, or seen one of these vintage beauties in person, share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear your memory, even if it's just a fleeting moment. And if you believe legends like the Starliner deserve to be remembered, hit like, subscribe, and share this video. So together, we can keep this piece of American history alive on the open road.